Okay, so the next thing I want to do is go ahead and start importing in our ARM pieces. Just for clarity's sake, I hid all of my other elements, and I'm going to go ahead and, just so I can assemble my ARM without it sort of being in the way. So I am going to go to File, Import, Vector File, and just like I did with the crate, I am going to start importing in these pieces. And that was a mistake. Let me do that again. File, Import, Vector File. I said ARM. And so I have these ARM pieces. I have ARM and then claw 1 and claw 2. So I'm going to do ARM. That's all right. Create a new palette called ARM. That's great. I'll just duplicate that ARM 3 times. Import vector file. We'll call this claw 1. Go look at claw 1. And I can actually import in multiple pieces at once, but what it would actually do is put them all on the same animation layer as if they were frames. And file, import one more time, vector file, we'll call this claw 2, and I did a separate claw for claw 2. There we go. So this is what we have now. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this ARM a couple of times. Duplicate selected layer, and duplicate selected layer. And just sort of position these where I want them to be, very roughly. Claw 1 I want to be above claw 2, and then finally got all 3 of our ARM pieces here. Okay, and in here in my node view, you'll see that all of those exist right here. I can kind of pull those out. Again, I need to probably organize my crate into its own composite node. I'll do that later. I'm just going to pull this over here and organize this in sort of a top-down hierarchy. So I got claw 1 and 2 there. I'm going to rename these. We'll call this ARM A, B, and C. And so that'll give us sort of a top-down hierarchy of that, and I can sort of see that a little bit better now. And with ARM A, go ahead and do Control P to get my peg. I am going to go ahead and, I'm not going to worry about this yet. I was going to say I'll enable 3D and that, but I'm not going to worry about that too much just yet. So I'm going to go through here, Control P, make a peg for all of these. And then when my pegs are done, I am going to set up my pivot points for them. So my pivot point for ARM A, I know I'll want that to be down here at sort of the center of this. ARM B, I want that to be at the center of this. ARM C, and the reason I know that is because that's the point I want it to rotate from. So think about this claw. I want this claw to rotate from that point, not from this point. That wouldn't make sense, right? So that's how I'm determining my pivot point, is where do I want it to rotate from. I'm going to try to give this one close as well. So now I should be able to, that's kind of cool. So again, this is kind of messy. I sometimes, just for clarity's sake, I will organize them something like this, just so I can see, over here are the drawings, here are the other pieces that, like pegs and things like that. And so I know I want ARM A to be driving ARM B, and I want ARM B to be driving ARM C, and I want ARM C to be driving both sections of the claw. Right. And so with that now, I should be able to animate my entire arm as one piece. Right. We'll kind of see that now. It all animates as one piece. And this is probably pretty familiar to you from the pendulum, but now we have this rig, and I do want one more peg in here. I'm going to select my top down, Control P, and I'll call this ARM Master Con. It says the master controller, and I can just pull this off to this way. And the reason I want that is because my arm is too big. So backdrop, choose this nice pink color there. Close. And so now I should be able to use this piece. When I turn back all of these things back on, I can select this top one and say enable 3D, and I'll probably need to position this Con Master, or this ARM Master controller. So I'll put it down here toward the bottom, right? And now this will let me reposition the entire arm rig. And in perspective view, I can bring it forward so it's kind of coming out of this box. And most importantly, I can scale the whole thing down. So now I have an arm that is a little easier for me to manipulate. Let me look around here and see how that's lining up. Not quite in the right spot. Sort of scooch that forward a little bit. Yeah, I like that. We can animate that up and down now. All right, I think we're in a pretty good spot. So if I hit render now, we can see what this render is looking like, and that's kind of cool. Again, like the black in this is maybe a little too black, so I can go to my colors and in the arm, maybe pull some of this back just a little bit. Right? Let's see what that looks like. There we go. Start to get a little bit more control over what this looks like. There we go. So that's where I am. So I'm really close to being ready to animate. I do want my ship in the background. And I will say that I am going to do it differently than this. I'm not going to just bring in an image. I'm going to go ahead and manually draw the ship. The reason for that is because I know I need to deform that ship. So like right now I am not really deforming this claw. I'm just going to pivot, rotate, animate pivots on it, right? I'm going to animate the rotation of this, right? But I'm not actually going to bend that drawing. Because if I needed to bend that drawing is actually pretty complicated, right? The chances that a deformer is going to work well on that is not great. And so I am going to need to put some deformers on my rocket ship, so I am probably going to do it as a manual drawing inside of Harmony.